Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the teleconference. This is the Library Advisory Commission LAC meeting for July 19th, 2021. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. To join this webinar using a telephone only, dial any of the following numbers, and I'll read two of them aloud. 1-833-548-0276 or 1-877-853-5247, and then slowly enter the webinar ID of 957-5872-4939. As an attendee, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. Your microphone is muted for the entire presentation unless you have a comment. You do not need a microphone, camera, or a screen if you only want to listen to the meeting, as it is accessible by landline or mobile phone. The Commission will take public comments as outlined in the posted agenda and in the next slides. All comments must include the agenda item number and be received prior to the close of public comment on that agenda item. If you're joining by computer, you may use the Q&A feature to type your comments. On the attendee control bar near the bottom of the screen, you'll see the Q&A icon. You may also use the raise hand icon to raise your hand. The moderator will call your name when it is your turn. State your full name for the record and then continue with your comment. You will have 3 minutes of speaking time. So if you're on a computer, on the Zoom control bar down in the lower left corner, you'll see the audio settings, and then in the middle, you'll see the Q&A icon and the raise hand feature. And then in the lower right corner, you'll see leave in a red rectangle. If you're using a mobile device, the Q&A icon and raise hand icons likely appear near the top right corner of your screen. So everything's in reverse. You'll see leave meeting in red letters up in the upper left corner, and then the raise hand and Q&A icons over to the right. If you've used Zoom to call into this meeting, you may raise your hand by pressing *9 on your keypad. The moderator will call out the last 3 digits of your phone number when it is your turn to comment. Press *6 to unmute yourself. You will have 3 minutes of speaking time. Once the commission begins, depending on the size of your mobile device screen, you may need to scroll over to view whoever is speaking. If you're accessing this meeting via the web browser only or a Chromebook without Zoom's progressive web app, PWA, installed, you will not see all panelists at one time, only the panelists speaking. The chair of the commission, Lindsay, will now call the meeting to order. We're transitioning to gallery view. Please stand by.
Thank you, Moderator Jones. So we'll call our July 19th meeting to order, and I'll ask the clerk to do a roll call vote. Or roll call, sorry.
Rena Dubin.
Present.
Jennifer Mount. Absent, it looks like. Mary Ripma.
I'm sorry,
Here.
Jennifer's in the audience. Sarah Jones, could you please? Thank you.
There she is. All right, so Jennifer Mount, are you present?
Present.
Mary Ripma.
Present.
Mike Termini.
Here.
Tricia Wynne.
Here.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Here. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, adoption of the agenda. Are there any questions on tonight's agenda?
I think Eric has an addition.
Me too. Thanks, Susan. So in the director's report, we mentioned that HR, the Human Resources from the city of Santa Cruz, has contracted with a recruiter for the future director. And they're seeking your input. And so it's really up to, and I received this after we put the agenda together, so I do apologize, but they're seeking your input, and I'm wondering how you would like to proceed. You could call a special meeting. You could form a subcommittee. You have a couple options open to you, and they're looking to do it either on the 27th of July or the 29th.
Do we
How
know
long-
that
How long would they expect that to be?
The sessions are 45 minutes.
Okay. And would that be an open session or a closed session?
That's up to you.
Okay.
I apologize, Eric, if we have a quorum, is it required to be open? Or because it's personnel, can it be closed? I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, I don't either then.
And I suspect, and Mike, you might have insight, but I suspect if we have it as a meeting with the full board, it's likely we'll have to post it and have it as an open meeting.
This is true unless a quorum of participants of the board attend, but do not speak or take part. You can be an observer without it being a published meeting. Highly unlikely.
Andy, you have a question?
I would feel more comfortable if it was a public meeting unless it was as a subcommittee. So just to be transparent.
Who would like to
Okay.
participate? We can just see if
I'm
there's more than a
available.
subcommittee.
Either day would work for me.
And so we have 3 people who would like to, that would make a nice subcommittee.
I think, do we know that the recruiter can facilitate this as a full public meeting? Well,
I sought confirmation before the meeting, but I haven't heard back. I would assume there's a high likelihood that she'd be able to accommodate that.
just given the tight timeline, it might be easiest, since we have 3 interested parties, to potentially move this forward as an ad hoc subcommittee and just direct the public to share questions with the commissioners in advance, so that the commissioners can relay that in the session if that's possible.
And it would be great if the public has input to send it to Yvonne and he will forward it to the subcommittee.
May I ask if the recruiter is also doing some public forum?
I don't know about a public forum, but they did relay that they are doing a community survey.
How was it handled before? I've understood, is it the same woman outside the library that's helping us? And when in 2015, when Susan was going through the process, how was it done, at least for this part?
I was recruited by June Garcia, who is the same consultant. She's one of the primary library director recruiters in the country. Very good. I was very impressed from her on the other side. Part of what they're doing is they're developing the search brochure, which is part of this is giving input before that, so they can talk about the characteristics of a leader that they're looking for. But I would also say that there will be opportunities for participation from this group in the interview process as well. I went through 2 full days of interviews in Santa Cruz and probably 4 hours of interview online prior to coming to Santa Cruz. And they had a broad cross section of individuals from the Library Advisory Commission, from the JPA, from the staff. So I think they felt very good about that search process. I think they got a lot of real interest in the position. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it occur that way, but it's likely to be something that Eric we'll bring to you monthly as the search evolves. Mike, were you part of that?
You're muted, Mike.
I think I'm unmuted now, am I not?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I've worked with this particular consultant before, and you will be thrilled to meet her. I once described her to someone as a librarian mage. She is nothing less than magical in what she does. We can't help but be satisfied with the process.
I looked
there
at
any
the
other-
website. It was so impressive, her website.
This
And
is
I
an
just-
item that,
I'm sorry. Go
sorry,
ahead.
I was just going to ask procedurally. This is an item that we've added to the agenda. So do we need to go to public comment on this since we're discussing?
I don't know. So let's just do it anyway.
Okay, this would be safe rather than sorry. Moderator Jones, do we have any public comment on this item, which is related to item 4, content that will be in the report by the Assistant Library Director?
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Okay.
And so the recommendation, to be clear, is that a subcommittee, ad hoc subcommittee be formed, consisted of Mary, Tricia, and Rena, for the purposes of working with Ms. Garcia on the director search.
So that's the recommended action. Is there a motion by the group?
I just had a question.
Sure.
Just about, so because it's a subcommittee, we're not having it be open publicly. That's correct? Okay. And so maybe I would like to make this motion, but that we take this recommendation, but also knowing that I would like to have further ability for the public to be able to input at some appropriate point.
Perfect.
I will second that. And I think we already did invite public comment to the 3 of us on the subcommittee, and I would like to reiterate that. So thank you, Rena. I appreciate your concern, and I share it. So thank you.
Very good. So we have a motion and a second to accept the recommendation to form an ad hoc subcommittee of Commissioners Ripma, Wynne, and Vice Chair Dubin, with the explicit instructions to the public to reach out to Clerk Simona Vargas with any input and feedback that they would like to be sure the commissioners take into consideration as they have those conversations. So that is the motion. We all understand it. I'll ask the clerk to do a roll call vote.
Rena Dubin,
Aye.
Jennifer Mount,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Tricia Wynne,
I
Chair Lindsay Bass.
That motion passes unanimously. Thanks, everybody. And thank you, commissioners and vice chair, for volunteering to be a part of that important process. Okay, we will move forward with oral communications, item 3 on the agenda. Any member of the audience may address the board on any matter either on or off the agenda that is within the board's jurisdiction. Note, however, that the board is not able to undertake extended discussion or act on any non-agendized items. Such items can be referred to staff for appropriate action, which may include placement on a future agenda. If you intend to address a subject that is on the agenda, please hold your comments regarding that item until it is before the board so that we may properly address all comments on that subject at the same time. In general, 3 minutes will be permitted per speaker during oral communication. A maximum of 30 minutes is set aside for oral communications at this time. Moderator Jones, do we have any oral communications?
Chair Bass, there are no oral communications.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to item 4, which is the report by the library director. And I will yield the floor to Assistant Director Howard.
Hi, thank you. I did submit it, but I do want to just express my thanks again to Susan. She's been a fantastic mentor and incredibly gracious. And we are very fortunate to have had her dedication over these years. And we're also very fortunate that she's going to be sticking around in Santa Cruz so that we can continue to pick her brain and ask her to support the Friends of the Library at some point down the road. So, thank you.
If there's no other comments on the report, are there any questions from commissioners? Seeing none, then we will, I don't believe there's any action required on the report. So we'll move to item 5, which are our member reports. Are there any reports from commissioners that they'd like to share with us at this point? Then I'll just share one quick update, which we were emailing with the clerk on earlier. I know Susan has been tracking this with Eric as well, which is that we do have a vacancy on the commission in Scotts Valley. So for anyone out there who may know someone that would be a good candidate for serving in that role, please help us get the word out. We want to make sure that we continue our record of having good, engaged folks on the commission. And we'll continue to work with city manager Friend on that appointment. So other than that, it looks like that would conclude our member reports. So we will move on to item 6, which is our consent calendar. All the items listed in the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion on these items prior to the time the board votes on the action unless members of the public or the board request specific items to be discussed for separate review. If any items are pulled for separate discussion, they will be considered following our general business items. 3 items on the consent calendar. Does anybody wish to pull any of those items? All right. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Okay. Do I have a motion regarding this item?
So moved.
Motion to
Second.
approve the consent calendar by Commissioner Termini, seconded by Commissioner Wynne. Clerk Simona Vargas, would you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin. I think you were muted there.
Sorry, aye.
Jennifer Mount,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Tricia Wynne,
Aye.
Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to item 7 on the agenda, which are, well, we have one presentation on programming. We'll hand the platform back over to Assistant Director Howard.
I thank you. So probably the most overused word of the year is unprecedented. And I think you all know we've had a very unprecedented year here at the library as well. And that has certainly been the case for our programming. We kicked off virtual programming last year, as you know, during the pandemic. And I really think, as I noted in the report, it's a testament to the work of the staff here who dramatically increased our numbers for summer reading compared to last year. They've done so much in programming, from brand new programming to help support the community, such as Shelter and Faith, the Community Resilience Series, and more. We went to virtual story time. So we continue to do many of our regular programs, Conversation for Change, and then we also introduced many new ones. And so it's putting us in this interesting period of time to look at what opportunities we may have down the road. So what can we do with all the knowledge we gained in terms of putting together these virtual programs? And what is it going to look like as we look to expand our hours more and try to figure out how do we allocate time and resources to have greater open hours, but also to continue to provide really excellent programming. So I've asked, there are two leaders that work on adult and youth services. So that's Jessica Goodman for adult services and Heather Norquist for youth services, to present on programming and really also to talk about where we are right now with summer reading and what the future may begin to look like. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica and Heather.
Heather, I think you're still muted.
Okay, sorry. I was just going to ask if you could hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. I said, good evening, Chair Bass, Vice Chair Dubin, and commissioners. This year, I'm going to turn off my video. This year, we have partnered with Friends of the Santa Cruz Public Libraries, Atlantis Fantasy World, Penny Ice Creamery, and Book to Action to present our program, which is for all ages. I have a slideshow that Sarah Jones will get going for you. And this is a slide that shows our sponsors. Next slide, please. Summer reading is a fun program for everyone, but it's also a valuable program because it helps prevent summer slide, which is learning loss that occurs when children are out of school and away from structured learning activities. Kids who don't read over the summer fall behind their peers when school starts up again. And the effects of this summer slide can last a lifetime. The most pronounced summer learning loss occurs among students in grades K through 3. Their skills are new and developing, and the time away from regular practice during school means they are more likely to forget. These summer setbacks are particularly worrisome because the early grades are the foundation for the achievement, work habits, and perceptions about self-confidence and schooling that impact performance for years to come. This past school year, school closures and remote learning have compounded learning loss, all of which disproportionately impacts Black children, Indigenous children, children of color, and all children who live in poverty. We are using Beanstack platform again this year to log reading and activities. Participants can also choose to use paper logs only or in conjunction with the Beanstack app. They record their time spent reading and earn incentives for reaching reading goals and completing activities. Here is an example of the paper reading log for teens and adults. All of our summer reading materials are in Spanish and English. The log explains how to participate and the incentives for each age group. If someone chooses to participate using only the paper log, they need to come to a branch or call TelInfo to be registered into Beanstack. Staff will log their achievements and issue their incentives. Here's a screenshot from the Beanstack app showing how a reader would log their reading minutes. Every child and teen ages 0 to 18 who signs up receives a $10 summer reading certificate for Atlantis Fantasy World. Every child ages 0 to 11 who reads for 5 hours earns an incentive prize book to keep. These are selected by our youth librarians and purchased with funds provided by Friends of the Santa Cruz Public Libraries. Every child and teen who reads 20 hours earns a free scoop coupon donated by Penny Ice Creamery. Teens who read for 5 hours receive a goodie bag with a fidget spinner, a mini cube puzzle, and a stress ball, and those all have the library logo on them. Adults who read 5 hours receive a tote bag with our summer reading logo and a raffle ticket. All ages receive a raffle ticket at 10 and 15 hours of reading, and also after completing 5 and 10 activities. Raffle prizes are gift cards from local businesses. Adults who read 20 hours receive a grand prize raffle ticket. The grand prizes include a family membership to the Museum of Art and History and a family membership to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. This year, our marketing department provided summer reading banners to help promote the program at all the branches. It was very helpful to have volunteers supporting summer reading this year. 16 volunteers, including 8 teens, served as summer reading branch hosts, inviting patrons to participate in summer reading and helping them to sign up. Volunteers also contributed to the success of our grab and go craft programs. 8 volunteers spent 96 hours putting together over 1,000 grab and go craft kits. 7 volunteers spent 21 hours putting together 350 craft kits for distribution at summer meal sites. In addition to offering incentives for reading and learning, we offer special programming in the summer to help promote the program. I'm going to talk about some of the youth programs we're offering this summer, and Jessica will talk about the adult ones. Just like last year, we're presenting summer reading performers virtually. We've scheduled a variety of performances, 1 per week throughout June and July. These include magicians, circus performances, musicians, and an educational program with bats. All of the virtual performances are interactive and some are bilingual. We've also found a way to offer STEAM and nature journaling in a virtual way. Librarian Catherine Upton created a series of 4 grab-and-go STEAM kits for kids. They register through the library calendar and choose the branch where they'll pick up the kit. The kits include almost all the materials they will need and instructions on how to make the project at home. The 4 kit themes are mini flashlights, paper fidget spinners, electromagnets, and robotic hands. Here are some images of the finished products. These have been incredibly popular this summer. We distributed 124 mini flashlight kits and 188 fidget spinners. Here's an excerpt from the instructions for the electromagnet called Maggie the Electromatic. It shows that Catherine got this project from the Oakland Toy Lab, and she has a link to the website. And then she talks about it. This project is a great introduction to electromagnetism, the force that not only helps pick up squished cars in junkyard wars, but is also responsible for a lot of the properties of matter in everyday life. Get enough electrons flowing via your battery, and all of a sudden you've turned your nail into a magnet. There's nothing that Maggie can't handle, except for all non-ferric things. And then she explains the concepts that the kids are learning and working with are electromagnetism, current, electrons, forces, and ferrous objects. Here are the contents of the kit that the child receives. Here's some photos showing the steps of how to assemble the electromagnet. These are accompanied by detailed written instructions and a resource list of books available at the library. Here's some feedback we received from a grandparent. Thank you for your response and for conveying my appreciation to all workers and volunteers alike for their efforts to positively engage children in reading and learning. Another very popular program is our nature journaling series presented by librarians Jackie Danziger and Brenda McElroy, along with nature journalist Melinda Nakagawa. This program was originally conceived as a program for teens, but has been popular with adults and families as well. We distributed 50 blank journals and colored pencil sets to participants who can then watch recorded videos explaining how to do nature journaling. And the numbers of video views are like almost 200. And some statistics, 57% of the participants are adults, 39% are between 8 and 11, and 4% teens. Here's a short excerpt from a video that Jackie made.
But here's what I got. And now I'm going to do the outline of the whole flower head. I'm going to start with that outline. You could call this an umbel. It's a big compound flower head. Looks a bit like that. And I see little hairs on the stems. They've got these hairy stems. Why is that, I wonder? Is it for defense? Does it keep insects away? You can use the journal prompt, I wonder, if you have questions like that. I draw those hairs. There we go. And they also have feathery leaves, even more feather-like than the poppy leaf. I'm just going to get the basic shape of these and I'm going to fill it in. And then I'll fill in these flower heads. Hey, it's getting sunny. I'm going to put my hat on. Remember to protect yourself from the sun. Bring a hat and wear sunscreen. Here's what I have so far. Whew, it's getting hot out here. I'm going to head out and finish this at home. It's warm.
That was done at the Felton Nature Preserve next to the Felton Branch. On 3 Saturdays in July, we're presenting outdoor events at parks, one in each region of the county. This is an opportunity to let the public know that the library is still here, ready to welcome them back into the buildings now that it's safe to do so. We're looking forward to in-person programming starting in the fall. It's also one more way to promote summer reading. People can continue to sign up through July 31st. Outreach to the community is an important part of summer reading as we work to connect with people who may not be aware of all the programs and services the library has to offer. This year, we received an $8,000 grant from the California State Library to provide pop-up programming at 8 summer meals sites. We visit each site twice during the summer. During June, we distributed books, craft kits, jump ropes, and summer reading logs to 496 children and teens. So far, our participation numbers are very impressive. This chart compares participation as of July 15th, 2021 with July 15th, 2020. The number of children registered has increased from 647 last year to 1,316 this year. Teen participation was at 154 last year and is at 269 this year. And we have 575 adults registered this year compared to 206 at this time last year. The total number of registrants is 2,160 compared to 1,007 last year. And we still have 2 weeks to go. I will now hand the presentation over to Jessica, who will talk about the adult program.
Okay. Good evening, Chair Bass, Vice Chair Dubin, and commissioners. My name is Jessica Goodman. I manage adult programs and services, and I will take you through our summer reading program for adults. So as Heather showed, this year we have 575 adults participating in summer reading, which is more than double the number that we had last year. And the prizes that she has shown are the brand new SCPL summer reading logo tote bag and raffle tickets for local merchant gift cards, the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History. Our program this year was a series called Book to Action, which is a one book, one community type program, very similar to the hugely popular annual Our Community Reads series that the Aptos Friends chapter does, where participants all read the same book and participate in a variety of programs on its topics. Book to Action brings community members together through literature to better understand ourselves and each other by tackling issues that are important to our community. It was funded by a California Center for the Book $7,000 grant to support a keynote speaker and books to give out to readers. And we did this through a partnership with the Watsonville Public Library so that we could bring all of Santa Cruz County together. The book we chose this year was Dear America, Notes of an Undocumented Citizen, which is the best-selling memoir by Jose Antonio Vargas. The author is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and a leading voice for the human rights of immigrants. The book takes readers into his story, sharing his journey to America from the Philippines as a child, his life as an undocumented immigrant, and his journey through America as an immigration reform activist. The book explores one of the most divisive questions facing our country today, which is, how do you define American? The grant paid for copies of the book to give out to readers. We had 150 English, 75 young adult, and 75 Spanish copies. We also circulated 55 copies from the library's collection in print, ebook, and e-audio formats. We held a series of events with our partners to explore the themes of equity, immigration, citizenship, and identity. These themes fit into the equity, diversity, and inclusion part of our annual strategic work plan. We had book discussions with our Boulder Creek, Capitola, Felton, La Selva Beach, and Scotts Valley book groups, English and Spanish language book discussions facilitated by the Watsonville Public Library, and a book discussion with people incarcerated in our jails facilitated by our county correctional facility team's librarians. We had a writing workshop led by Rachel Goodman of K-Squid Community Radio on defining American, telling your story in 240 words or less, an oral history panel on the history and heritage of Filipino families in Santa Cruz County, showcasing the Watsonville is in the Heart Oral History Project in partnership with the UC Santa Cruz Humanities Institute. There was a panel with the Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County and the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative discussing current issues affecting our local immigrant communities. And this panel focused on the action part of Book to Action, introducing participants to local organizations that are supporting immigrants and how to get involved. K-Squid Community Radio offered a 4-part radio series and discussion on Pastures of Plenty, a history of California farm workers. And we had 2 weeks of screening the film Documented online, which is the documentary created by Jose Antonio Vargas on his experiences. Our keynote was the author talk with Jose Antonio Vargas. This was facilitated by local journalist Wallace Bain. We co-hosted this event online with both the Watsonville and Sunnyvale libraries. And this was our first time working with a live simultaneous Spanish language interpreter in our online program. So we got some great feedback from participants throughout the program, and a couple of them really stood out to me. So one participant said, the author's story is one that I can relate to. It's important for me and our community to see ourselves reflected in stories and programs of the library. Thank you for choosing this book and opening up conversations about immigration, belonging, acceptance, and more. Another participant talked about their appreciation of Mr. Vargas's articulate and honest remarks and the challenges his experiences and perspectives are for everyone seeking reform. And they said that this kind of programming is what public libraries should be doing. So you'll see that quote on the next slide. It's a long quote. So as you can see from the descriptions of all of these events, the success of our program series was the result of partnering with several community organizations to create a variety of programs that showcase what they do. So I've mentioned these before. It's Watsonville Public Library, Sunnyvale Public Library, K-Squid Community Radio, the Watsonville is in the Heart Oral History Project, Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County, Thriving Immigrants Collaborative, the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office, and the Humanities Institute at UC Santa Cruz. So as we work with more partners on programs in general, we've started creating collaborative agreements that establish our common goals and spell out each partner's contributions. This helps to clarify our mutual expectations and provides a solid foundation for the program to develop and be delivered. For Book to Action, we created a collaborative agreement with the Watsonville Public Library. Our goals included things like building a stronger relationship between our organizations, planning a program series together that encourages learning, connection, volunteerism, and community engagement, and promoting thought, discussion, and action on our book's themes of equity, community, identity, and immigration. The agreement also spelled out the details of what we each would contribute to successfully reach our goals. So those would be things like hosting virtual programs on our Zoom platform, ensuring that marketing reflects both organizations' branding, and collaborating on participant survey design, among others. So the success of our adult summer programming was also due to the incredible collaboration of our own staff team. Next slide. That's Diane Cowan, who was awarded the grant, Jen Hooker, who also led the program series, librarians Lorena Lopez, Susan Nilsson, Jesse Silva, and Victor Willis, our volunteer coordinator and collaborative agreement expert, Judy Russell, and our Zoom tech extraordinaire, Sarah Jones. The lunch at the library outreach team included Alejandra Ruiz, Brenda McElroy, Catherine Upton, Julie Soto, Eric Chalfant, Essie Barroso Ramirez, Lorena Lopez, Susan Nilsson, and Valerie Murphy. And there were many people involved in planning our overall summer reading program this year. Brenda McElroy, Catherine Upton, Diane Cowan, Eric Chalfant, Jackie Danziger, Judy Russell, Julie Soto, Lauren Weisham, Patty Webster, Rowan Rammer, Sandy Imperio, and Valerie Murphy. So it takes a lot of staff to put on these successful programs. So lessons that we learned. With Book to Action, we really experienced how collaboration with community partners brought a wealth of creative programming that then amplified its impact. Collaborative partnership agreements lead to successful experiences by defining goals, expectations, and contributions. And when we're working with organizations that have different amounts and kinds of resources available, the equitable distribution of responsibilities is important to consider. In addition to the strong Book to Action program series that anchored our adult programming this summer, we also now have open library buildings where patrons can once again interact with our staff and volunteers, learn about our summer programs, and sign up for summer reading, which really increases participation. And that's very different from last year when our interactions were limited to curbside holds, pickup, if you remember that, and phone, email, or chat questions. It takes a lot of staff time and effort to create and host successful virtual programs, including those that are being delivered by partner organizations. We started using live interpretation to achieve a bilingual program, and this can help us start reaching communities that we haven't traditionally served in our programs. And don't be afraid to try something new, which is pretty much the lesson of the entire past year and a half. Heather and the youth team share these lessons learned. Ice cream is a great incentive. Grab and go kits are hugely popular. Partnering with summer meal sites has been an effective way to connect with underserved families. It's extremely challenging to provide a quality summer reading program when we're understaffed. And helping with summer reading promotion and signups is a great opportunity for volunteers. So what's next for programs? We started offering virtual programs online in Zoom in April of 2020, quickly pivoting our program model due to the upheavals of the pandemic. Since then, we've hosted over 1,000 online programs, some live, some are recordings, some are the self-directed programs like film screenings or our grab and go crafts. And altogether, there's been an audience of almost 13,000. We've learned a lot about how to deliver successful virtual programs and some of the benefits of doing so, like the ability for people to attend from the comfort of their homes without needing to deal with traffic, parking, transportation, other mobility issues, or just the tight schedule of our busy lives. These programs also allowed us to have presenters from other places, such as speakers in the Genealogical Society lecture series, or the Book to Action author talk that involved 3 different library systems. Of course, people are eager to meet in person, face-to-face with each other once again, to experience programs together inside their library branches. And I think we would all be excited to spend more time away from screens. So we are exploring a mix of in-person, virtual, and hybrid. So hybrid in-person and virtual, where some attendees are physically present, others are online. How these different formats could work and what resources would be needed to offer the different formats. There has definitely been interest in doing hybrid programs and meetings. That can be a little more complicated than one might imagine. It's really important that everyone who's attending a program have a good experience and feel included, which can become a tricky balance in a hybrid environment. So like there are technical considerations like how the camera faces, how the sound and the microphones work so that everyone can see, hear, and speak. There are also significant considerations around our most precious resource, which is our staff. Our hours of operation have expanded. Our library branches are getting busier and busier, and we need to have staff there to interact with patrons and provide service. We help answer information and research questions. We help people with their accounts. We help people with technology. We share book recommendations. So all the many different things we do each day. We also need staff answering phones. Many more people began using our telephone information service when we closed our buildings in March 2020, and many patrons are now continuing to use this service. We also want to offer a variety of programs in our branches and community outreach programs like lunch at the library, summer meal sites, that kind of programming, which not only takes staff time, but also takes us away from the library buildings. So worth it. It's a tricky balance, and it requires developing evaluation criteria and doing some prioritizing since we just can't do everything. So we do anticipate that the time and the community engagement processes that we're investing in developing the new strategic plan over the next several months will ultimately pay off in a strategic plan that will establish a framework for our service and program priorities. And so we're looking forward to that. And the final slide is just the reference to the research that Heather shared about school closures and remote learning, compounding learning loss. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jessica and Heather, for that really, really substantial presentation on the summer reading program and its successes. I'll just look to Eric to see if he has any summary comments before we turn to commissioners for their questions.
Well, I just want to thank Jessica and Heather. It's been an extraordinary effort, and we have been living in constant change, but they have somehow magically figured out a way to make it successful and new. And as it was a great point that Jessica made, that's the next step here is looking strategically about what our resources permit us to do. And then also I wanted to mention that later in the fall, we'll also be coming back to you, not just with what we're learning from that process of building the strategic plan, but more of an evaluation of summer reading and what we'll be doing with summer reading going forward as well. So thanks again, Heather and Jessica.
Thank you so much. And if you all will stay online, I'll look to the commissioners to see if there are any follow-up clarifying comments or questions. Vice Chair Dubin, and then we'll go to Commissioner Wynne.
All right, thanks for your great presentations. I'm curious about, I've seen some on the packet, it talks about kindergarten readiness. And I know the summer reading program was really important for our family elementary school, but I'm wondering about the very early childhood, like the babies through like age 3, and the programs that have you've been able to do or haven't been able to do, and kind of where that's going, because that was very, very, very important for our family.
Heather, you're muted.
We have been able to offer virtual toddler time, I think since last summer, and it has been well attended and it has been fun, but we are going to bring it back into the buildings starting in September. And we'd like to offer programming for, even younger children. That's something on the wish list, starting with babies and, infants.
Commissioner Wynne?
Well, thank you both so much. That is so impressive. And really to see the numbers, I mean, it's just incredible. So thank you very much and great job. The one kind of glaring thing that jumped out at me is like, how do we engage teens a little bit more? I'll bet you've spent more time thinking about this than we have, and I'd love to just hear your thoughts. By the way, I once was a teenager and I raised a teenager, so I do understand that just general malaise and apathy, but you know, I've also seen lots of teens in the library, and I know COVID was different. I know you've thought about it. I just love to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I can start. I'm hopeful that with our new buildings that have teen spaces, teens will be comfortable hanging out there. We're trying to make them as teen friendly as possible, and we're really making an effort to plan programs for teens. It's really important, I think, right now when we have the new buildings. And we also just hired a new librarian. Jessica can say more about that.
Sure. So we just hired a new librarian, Ivan Yamas, who worked with us as a library assistant before he went away to library school. And we are so excited that he's coming back. And his role is half teen, half adult programming. So it'll be a little bit of a blend there. And then I just wanted to add that, you know, with the summer reading signups, we started getting a lot of interest from teen volunteers to work the tables and do signups, which then attracts more teens, right? So, so we're looking forward to doing more of that and having more librarians who are really dedicated to teen services help with that.
Having the teens help with the summer reading hosting at the branches, that was really popular, and the Teen Advisory Council has been really active this summer. So I think we have some momentum that we can build on. They're excited about the new spaces, especially at Capitol.
Additional questions from commissioners? Now we'll turn to public comment.
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Okay. I also just quickly wanted to share just how impressive the results from the program are, and an acknowledgement. You guys laid out 8 partners that you worked with to make the program as successful as it was. And boy, it is not easy to align 8 different groups to deliver something so impactful. And the example of the collaborative agreement that you showed, I think just shows how intentional and thoughtful you all were in keeping your eye on the ultimate goal and doing the hard work to align. And I just really want to applaud that. It's masterclass. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Excellent. Well, we don't have an action aside from just general input from commissioners on this item. So if there are any other comments that you all want to share with Heather and Jessica, now would be the time to do so. And thank you for your very thoughtful questions up to this point.
I'm impressed by the grants, and I'm wondering is there one particular person that leads the effort to receive the grants? There's the one listed for 8,000 and another for 100,000.
There are a number of staff who work on it. Diane, our kind of marketing guru and librarian, has been the lead on many of them, and she's helped to spearhead a lot of those efforts.
Impressive.
Commissioner Termini?
You know, as I read through the report, I was moved by the thread of social justice that's sort of in the fabric of everything the library seems to do. And my thought was that you make it very easy to be on this kind of commission. So thank you.
And I just wanted to give you a heads up that in the next meeting on September 20th, we are going to have a similar presentation by the division manager on our collection. So she's also going to kind of take a similar look back in terms of all the things she had to do and her team had to do in order to support us over the past year and a half, both with a high demand for ebooks that went up, plus having to figure out how to get the opening day collection into our new libraries as well. So there'll be some lessons learned from her as well, and what the future looks like for our collections.
Awesome. Well, this presentation was outstanding, and I think is really helpful to give us a glimpse into your world and all of the things that you have to do to impact the community and provide these incredible services. So I think these are very helpful for other parts of the organization as well. So thanks for setting that up and for all the time you took to put it together.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, if there's no other comments on the presentation, we'll let Jessica and Heather get on with their nights. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to item number 8, which is our general business. So we will turn to A, which is the meeting room policy. No, Eric, you want to summarize the staff report that was submitted for this?
Yes, sure. And we'll see if we can bring Jessica back. She's been the one working constantly and very hard on this. And so we brought, actually, Jessica, it's up to you. You can go ahead and do the introduction, but I was just going to simply say, we brought to you a policy pre-pandemic, and then through all these changes, we've done sort of a reanalysis of it, and have gone back, mainly Jessica and her team. They were the ones who went back, both to take the lessons learned, plus the fact that we are going to be rolling out a new software to manage all of these new buildings. So I'm going to let her dive into that.
Okay. So I'm Jessica. You know me as the manager of adult programs and services. And I've also been working on the development of our new room booking software, which functions based on our meeting room policy, right? Which then gets me diving back into the meeting room policy because we adopted it March of 2020, pretty much the worst time in the world to have a new meeting room policy because we stopped using meeting rooms, we stopped gathering, haven't done it for a year and a half now because of COVID. But we are finally ready to put our policy into use, and everybody's super excited about our meeting rooms, and we are super excited about our meeting rooms. So when we reviewed the policy, we noticed a few things that do merit revision due to changes that happened over the past year and a half. So we're bringing the revisions to you for your endorsement so that we can then take it to the board so that we can then go live with our meeting rooms. So I would say that the 4 revisions that we're looking to do are fairly minor. They don't really substantially change the principles of the policy. The first one is that we do want to emphasize that community rooms are intended for use by groups. So we just want to add the term groups to the beginning of the community rooms terms of use. So it would then read, rooms can be reserved by groups 2 months in advance of their event, etc. So that's the first one. Second, and this one is the most substantial of the ones that we're wanting to change, is we would like to change our study rooms to same day only use rather than being reservable online the day before. And that's because advanced reservations can unintentionally favor people who have greater access to technology, which can then limit the availability for people who are present and ready to use the room, like students. So like I said, that's the most substantial one of the 4 changes that we're hoping to make. The third is that there is a whole section in our policy that describes the types of rooms and where they are. And some of that information is outdated now, which then led us to think, well, so that's valuable information to know, but it can change over time. And this is really more informational than it is a matter of guiding principles, right? So it's not exactly a policy. So what we would like to do is take that out of the policy document and have that information available on our website, on handouts, on all those kinds of things, which then can be revised as needed. And then finally, we are not currently using a regional manager structure. So we'd like to change the contact information for becoming a library partner. And so we would replace it with just the contact for library administration, who would then get people connected to the appropriate manager. Some of our partnerships have to do with adult programs, some have to do with youth programs, some are more just general to use of the buildings. And there are different managers for those areas. The other thing about giving a referral to the library administration contact is that that's the one that's least likely to change again in the future, as opposed to the structure of our individual management responsibility areas, which could change again at any time. So those are the 4 revisions that we'd like to make, and we hope you will endorse them.
I have a question based on experience up on campus with study room reservations. And I'm wondering, I'm not sure if the software would be the same, but I wondered, when I began up there working, students had to come and get a key, and we changed it to online reservations, and it freed up staff time so much, and it prevented conflict at the desk. So, you know, students pretty well supervised the whole process themselves. And it took us kind of out of the loop. So this, you know, it's a completely different library and situation. I'm not sure what your software is, but when you worry about them being excluded because of access to technology, I'm wondering if that is a really true concern. The way things are going with so many people having phones, assuming that you're going to, you know, if that's how the software would be available, and the fact that they can come to the library and ask for assistance to make a reservation. So that was the only part of it that I just wondered about, just based on this personal experience in a work environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have to see how it goes because we haven't done this before. The software does have some ability. There is still going to need to be some checking in at the desks just to get keys to the rooms, which is just generally a good idea in a public library space. So, you know, we will have to see how it goes. And we really have had discussions kind of back and forth on what is the more equitable way to handle reservations, whether it's being able to reserve online in advance or, you know, coming in person. And this is not just for students, although it is for students, right? But there are all kinds of other needs, you know, people doing job interviews, things like that. So we're going to try it out and see what happens. I think we're also hoping that as we do more work on our strategic plan development, that we'll get a better sense of what the needs are in the community. And so then we'll have a better sense of which way we should go with this. So I think we're going to be looking at trying, you know, as it is for about 6 months or so, and then see how it's going and see where we are with the strategic plan at that point.
That sounds good. Even less than 6 months might be wise. You might see right away how congested and conflicted the desk can get. The staff gets really dragged into some situations. At least we did. It was wonderful to, you know, sort of let it loose. And people predicted that it was going to be a problem to have it be, I don't know, I guess you could say free for all, but it wasn't.
Commissioner Wynne.
Sorry. Thanks very much. And thank you, Jessica, for the explanation. You know, what I have noticed in the Aptos Library, of course, the Aptos Library is closed right now, but how many tutors are in there after school tutoring students? And, you know, we're going to get 3 little study carrels in our new library. And I really was thinking, oh my gosh, those tutors are just going to want to move into those spaces. They are there for commercial purposes, but they're also playing, you know, an important role in our community. So you have some limitations there on, you know, how often you can reserve and things like that. But have you kind of thought through the policy? Well, I mean, also one more thing along these same lines is I did notice more and more people working, you know, conducting their business in the library, you know, whether they're you know, real estate agents or whatever, you know, and stepping out to take phone calls. And I was thinking, oh boy, they're going to love those little study carrels, you know, to be able to get in and talk on the phone and, you know, conduct their business. So I just love to, hear your thoughts. Again, you've spent more time thinking about this than we have.
Sure. I mean, that's there are a lot of good questions there, right? And we see all of those situations. You know, space in general in the world is like really hard for people to come by, right? That's what's so exciting about libraries and their meeting rooms and study rooms. It is important to us to support student learning, and that can be done by tutors. We don't want our spaces, you know, used for commercial purposes. It gets really difficult for staff to try to police that and figure out, you know, what is the relationship between these people, and that those two are fine, these two are not fine. So, you know, one of the things that we also talk about is, you know, do we just block out 3 to 5 on school days? We say, you know, library, you know, for students, and then only students can use it at that time. So, you know, there are different things that we can do. And then, yeah, I mean, there's that need for people to do job interviews. So many people have Zoom meetings now, right? So, you know, people need that space as well. So it'll be interesting to see how study and conference room has changed because of so many places going into this kind of remote work situation.
And I know, thanks, Jessica. I know we both sound like a broken record on it, but the strategic plan will help kind of inform that question too. I mean, to what extent do we prioritize, I mean, learning, because we do consider ourselves, of course, a learning institution. And so how do we prioritize that and not also feel like we're policing the space? And I'll also say, I mean, I like the idea of having a time period that we know is already popular with students, which is 3 to 5 at the library, to kind of make that the priority. I do personally like that and lean to that, and we'll see what we learned from the strategic plan. But it's also important to think, and Jessica and I heard this all the time when she and I both worked for the Palo Alto Public Library System, and when they went to a software called Liquid Space, we heard all the time when potential businesses would come in to have conferences inside the library and use the space for meetings, they would always say, oh, I never even thought of coming into the library. And they were always telling me that as they were walking out of the library with books in their hands. And so, you know, it's a great way to kind of invite people who kind of fell out of the habit of using the library, or even forgot that neighborhood library was in their community. And then they see the other programs going on. So they'll see conversations for change and you know, community resilience and these other things. So it's one more way for us to reach more and more of our members, our community members, really, and bring them in. So trying to find that balance all the time is tricky, and it's gonna evolve over the next few years too.
Vice Chair Dubin.
This is slightly off topic, but you mentioned that there's no branch managers, and I was surprised at that. So could you just do like a 30-second blip on what the structure is currently?
So there are no regional managers. We do have branch managers. Yeah, so it was, you know, Laura did Scotts Valley, Felton, Boulder Creek. I did, you know, Garfield, downtown, Branson 40. And we did like everything that happened there. And so now we've done that more adult and youth and branches as the split. Yeah, so, okay. But every branch has a branch manager. Okay. And they get to deal with this on the ground every day.
Any other questions or comments on the proposed changes to the meeting policy before we check on public comment? Yes, Vice Chair Dubin.
I'm sorry, just to also clarify, so can you reserve at all online the study rooms, or is it only you just come in and it's like right then, and that like it's more just a right then kind of immediacy?
It's a same day. Yeah. So it may be right then, right? Sometimes you're more like, I've got it at 3 o'clock because somebody else has it at 2 o'clock. But it's not something that that patrons can do self-service online. They have to do that through staff. So it's just the community rooms and the conference rooms that people can book online themselves.
Yes.
Sorry. And so I'm happy to make this motion, but I really like the idea of adding in the 3 to 5 time for students, you know, whether that's middle school or high school, especially. I don't know if there's a way we can to put that in what we're going to be voting on.
In Rena, there's nothing that prohibits a branch from doing that. The one thing I would say is we probably wouldn't want to do it at Live Oak just because of the
Right.
clientele there.
Right.
This allows the branch staff to actually sort of pre-book spaces if they need them.
Right.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
Well, just to follow up on what Susan just said, is there another branch with a clientele like that where students wouldn't really be coming in after school, or is it pretty much Live Oak?
And just, I think with the smaller branches, I don't know if any of them actually have a meeting room, but it just, it sort of depends upon the clientele and the setup of the branch. I completely agree. Scotts Valley totally makes sense. Capitola, Aptos will totally make sense. It just may not make sense everywhere.
Yeah.
Codify it. Yeah.
Great. I'm going to ask Moderator Jones to check to see if we have any public comments on this item.
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Great. Then I will invite motions on this item. If
I move approval of the staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the staff recommendation and a second from Commissioner Termini. Clerk Samantha Vargas, will you please call a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin,
Aye.
Jennifer Mount,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Tricia Wynne,
Aye.
Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. So those changes to the meeting room policy are adopted unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for the great questions and clarifying comments as well. We'll now turn to item B on the general business agenda, which is displaying the LGBTQ pride flag throughout the year. And I will hand things over to Assistant Director Howard.
All right, thanks, Chair Bass. Yeah, so the library raised the LGBTQ pride flag in June, and we do that for a number of reasons. And I also wanted to just draw your attention to the US government site that I included in the discussion. And it goes through really the unfortunate level of bullying that goes on among or that targets the LGBTQ youth. And we work really hard in the library to ensure that it is a safe space, a welcoming and inclusive space. Again, I'll come back to the strategic plan. We're gonna be focusing on equity in that plan and what we can do to better serve our community. And we believe that the flag helps represent and signal to the community that this is a safe place for all youth and all adults too. And so we're asking that you endorse our practice of keeping the flag up at all of our branches throughout the year.
I'm wondering about what other flags are up and how are they managed? You know, are they brought in at night?
That's I have to get back to you on that. That is my understanding, but I would have to get back to you. And the other flag right now, I think we have the California state flag at least one of the branches, and the American flag, of course.
Commissioner Mount, and then we'll go to Commissioner Termini.
So this may be a similar question to what Commissioner Ripma just asked, but I was curious if there is a process or a policy or procedure that helps us consider different groups that we would like to represent in this support of inclusion and equity.
That's a really good question. We did look into this, and Kira, I don't know if you are there. There are a couple things that we do more that we follow when it comes to having the American flag at a half mast. And Kira, I don't know if you want to add to that, but we've followed for the flag that was for raising the pride flag in June. We followed a vote that was in City Council in Santa Cruz, and we also know that some of the schools are doing it now as well. And I think for us as an organization, what Susan has said in the past, and it's something that I think is really good practice, is that when it comes to community values, we go to the Library Advisory Commission on that and discuss those issues. And then we seek your endorsement for it, and then we take it to the board as well.
Kira, do you have anything you want to add? As a no, and I'll turn to Commissioner Termini.
Okay, thanks.
I'm in favor of this policy. My only criticism is, and my fear is, that when the flag is up all the time, it loses impact and it becomes easy to ignore. And if there might be some process by which, along with the American flag, they're raised every day. I mean, because you put a flag up there, it just stays up there, and it's up there 24/7. It becomes a fixture of the building, and its impact is lost.
That's a good point.
And I apologize, I don't have all the details, but with the American flag, I know there is different practices, whether you have night lighting on the flag. And I think in that case, flags are left up 24 hours a day. And in the places that we don't have that 24-hour sort of lit fixture, I believe that's where we take them down nightly.
I was just going to comment that I have seen in Aptos, just because I'm often there when it's opening, they put the flag up every morning. And so I'm assuming they take the flag down at closing time too. So yeah.
The new flagpole at Aptos has a light on it, just so you know.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments on this item from commissioners? Moderator Jones, do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Okay. We do have a staff recommended action to endorse the practice of flying the LGBTQ pride flag throughout the year. Are there any motions?
Yeah, I would go ahead and move approval of the staff recommendation, but I would also just suggest to the staff that maybe a year from now, we review the policy just to see whether, or not Commissioner Termini's statement is correct, that maybe we are diluting the importance of what we're trying to shine a light on.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynne. Vice Chair Dubin?
Oh, I just wanted to make the motion or second it wherever we're at.
I think we are there for a second.
Okay.
If that's what you're willing. Okay, we do have a motion and a second with staff direction to revisit the policy for understanding if it's having its intended impact, if I understand correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Clerk Sumano Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin,
Aye.
Jennifer Mount,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Tricia Wynne,
Aye.
Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. So that motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. With that, we are now at item 9, which is our upcoming meetings. So our next meeting will be September 20th, 2021. It says Capitola. So I think this will be our first in-person meeting in quite a while. This is very exciting. Will we be doing this as a hybrid meeting? So we'll still have the ability for people to join via a Zoom, or will this be in person only?
So that's the goal. We're going to
Okay.
see if we have everything in place by then. So I didn't put hybrid on there. We started to put hybrid on there and then we deleted it at the last minute because we're not 100% sure if we're going to have the technology in place for that, so that it goes as smoothly as we really as it should. So we'll leave you hanging, I'm afraid, until we get a little bit closer to that date.
Very good. Okay, understandable as well. And Vice Chair Dubin?
Before we adjourn, I just wanted to acknowledge Susan. I don't know if that wasn't really on the agenda, but I'm so sad. I just think you've been incredible, and you've given so much to our community and to me personally. I feel like I've learned a lot from you, and just very, very, very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here, here.
We'll miss you.
Come have coffee with me someday.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much, Susan, for your service. And we'll look forward to seeing you involved in the Friends group very shortly. We don't have any anticipated agenda items yet for the September meeting. If commissioners do have thoughts on that, please feel free to email Clerk Sumano Vargas. Otherwise, Rena and I will be working with Assistant Director Howard and the library team on September's agenda.
And I will, sorry, Chair, but I will be bringing back Sarah Harbison. She's going to do a presentation on the collection. So if you have questions that you really want us to help answer when we come back on September 20th, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll make sure we work that into the presentation.
Great.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any other final comments before we close? All right. We'll adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.